Hello, you're watching Speed News on WION World is One with me, Crispino Nunes, and my interpreter, Ms. Rajni. Over the next 30 minutes, we bring to you top stories from across the world. The killing of Hamas militant group's Deputy Chief Saleh al-Arori has triggered protests across the West Bank. Thousands of Palestinians took to the streets of Ramallah, Jenin and Hebron. Hamas said the killing will not lead to its defeat. Hezbollah vowed that Arori's death will not go unpunished. Arori's sister Kutiaba also joined protests in the West Bank. She said Arori's contribution for Palestinians will be remembered for years to come and that her brother's influence will give rise to stronger and tougher leaders. Hamas officials had claimed that Arori was at the heart of negotiations for the prisoner swap deal with Israel. The Yemen-based Houthi rebel group has threatened that the United States will not escape punishment and retaliation. This comes in response to American Marines attacking Houthi boats and killing 10 of its militants in the Red Sea. The US Navy destroyed 3 Houthi boats in the Red Sea on Sunday, killing the crews after they tried to hijack a commercial ship and opened fire on the helicopters. Yemen's Houthis have been targeting vessels in the Red Sea since November to show their support for Hamas militant group. The Houthi attacks have prompted major shipping companies to take the longer and costlier route around the Africa's Cape of Good Hope rather than through the Suez Canal. An Israeli strike has killed Hamas's deputy chief. As per reports, Saleh al-Arori was killed along with his bodyguards in an Israeli drone strike on Beirut's southern suburbs in Lebanon. The explosion shook Musharraf Fair on one of Lebanese capital's southern suburbs. Lebanese state media reported the strike hit a Hamas office. A total of 7 people were killed in the attack. Saleh al-Arori was the deputy head of Hamas's Politburo and a founder of its military wing, the Qassam Brigades. He is also a United States designated terrorist and has a bounty on his head. Turkish authorities have detained 33 people suspected of spying on behalf of Israel. The suspects were held after raids in Istanbul and 8 other provinces. Turkey alleges that they were planning to carry out activities that officials claim included reconnaissance and pursuing, assaulting and kidnapping foreign nationals living in Turkey. Turkey's Interior Minister's office released a video showing armed security service agents breaking down doors and handcuffing suspects in their homes. During the raids, authorities also found large amounts of foreign currency worth around $165,000, United registered firearms and digital surveillance material. Ukraine and Russia have renewed fighting on the front line as hundreds of missiles and drones struck the capital Kiev and Kharkiv on Tuesday, causing widespread damage. At least 5 civilians were killed and dozens were reported wounded. In retaliation, Ukrainian missiles killed at least 1 and injured at least 7 in Belgorod, which is near Russia's border with Ukraine, on the 3rd day of airstrikes since New Year's Eve. Ukrainian officials said Russia fired at least 99 missiles. It claimed that it shot down 72 of them. Ukraine's defense minister also claimed Moscow was deliberately targeting residential areas. Kyiv called on its allies to accelerate deliveries of weapons following the renewed escalation. Former United States President Donald Trump has appealed the decision by the state of Maine to keep him out of the presidential primary ballot. A top election official in Maine had accused Trump of inciting the January 6th Capitol rioters and barred him from running for presidency. Trump's attorneys urged the Maine Superior Court to dismiss the ruling by Maine Secretary of State Shenna Bellows, who is a Democrat. Trump called her a biased decision-maker who acted in an quote-unquote arbitrary and capricious manner. Trump also argued in the filing that Bellows failed to provide lawful due process and made multiple errors of law. Maine last week joined Colorado in barring Trump from appearing on the primary ballot. Trump is facing similar 14th Amendment challenges to his candidacy in other states. Harvard University President Claudine Gay has resigned from her position. This comes amidst plagiarism accusations and criticism surrounding her testimony at a congressional hearing about anti-Semitism on campus. Gay's departure comes just 6 months into her tenure. The controversy began when allegations of plagiarism surfaced against Gay. The accusations arose from similarities found between her writings and those of other authors. Criticism of Gay was further fueled by her performance at a congressional hearing. She faced scrutiny over her response to questions about the university's position on anti-Semitism on campus following the outbreak of the Israel-Hamas war. A man has been arrested after he broke into the Colorado Supreme Court overnight and opened fire inside the building. Authorities say that while the man was inside, he held a security guard at gunpoint. The break-in comes 2 weeks after the court ruled 4-3 to remove former President Donald Trump from the state's 2024 ballot. The FBI previously said it was working with Colorado law enforcement to investigate reports of violent threats against the Colorado Supreme Court justices. Police soon arrested the man and took him to a local hospital. The motive behind the break-in remains unclear. However, police say it is not related to the Trump case. The death toll in the powerful 7.6 magnitude Japan earthquake has risen to 62. Officials say more than 300 injuries have been reported, many of them severe. Rescue operations are underway with many still feared trapped under the rubble. Rescue efforts are continuing amid freezing temperatures, with teams struggling to reach coastal areas. Authorities have cautioned residents on further major tremors, urging evacuation from coastal areas. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida says the scale of devastation is now becoming increasingly clear. Around 200 tremors have been detected since the quake first hit Japan's Ishikawa prefecture on Monday. An investigation is underway to determine what led to the fiery crash between a Japan Airlines jet and a Coast Guard plane at Tokyo's Haneda Airport. 5 people were killed on the Coast Guard plane. All 379 people on the passenger plane survived the collision. The Japan Airlines Airbus A350 burst into flames as soon as it landed and collided with the Coast Guard plane. The Coast Guard plane was supposed to help with earthquake rescue and relief operations. Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has expressed condolences on the deaths. The United States is set to reopen 4 of its legal borders with Mexico. This comes as authorities say high levels of illegal immigration have receded. The United States will resume operations at an international bridge in Eagle Pass, Texas, 2 crossings in Arizona and another near San Diego. United States border authorities struggled in December to process migrants as apprehensions reached nearly 11,000 in a single day. Lawmakers remain in talks over a possible deal that would combine increased border security measures with foreign aid. Mexican and US officials pledged last week to work together more closely to tackle record migration at their shared border. Mexico on Tuesday evening cheered the reopening of the border crossings. Spanish Coast Guards have rescued over 153 migrants off the coast of Gran Canaria in the Atlantic Ocean. Hundreds of migrants have been rescued off the Canary Islands in the first 2 days of the year. This has continued a trend that has caused strain on Spain's archipelago, located around 100 kilometers off Africa's west coast. More than 37,000 migrants reached the Canary Islands from West Africa on fragile boats by December 15th. The Red Cross has said more than 40,000 migrants reached the Spanish islands in 2023. The Somalia government has rejected the Memorandum of Understanding between Ethiopia and self-declared region of Somaliland and recalled its ambassador following a cabinet meeting. The Somali government declared the report deal null and void and unacceptable. Somalia's President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud said in Parliament that no one has the power to give away a piece of Somalia. The country called on the international community to offer its support and has appealed to the United Nations, African Union, the Arab League and Regional East African Grouping, IGAD, among others, to stand with Somalia. With the emergence of the new JN1 COVID variant, India has logged a total of 511 new cases of the subvariant till January 2nd. These cases have emerged from 11 states, mainly from Karnataka, Kerala, Goa and Gujarat. The World Health Organization has declared this new strain as a variant of interest that needs intense scientific scrutiny, although the symptoms remained mild, but people of old age and people with comorbidities have been advised to remain cautious. The ongoing crisis in the Indian wrestling community has taken a fresh twist. Hundreds of junior wrestlers have assembled in India's national capital, Delhi, to protest against the loss of one crucial year in their careers. The junior wrestlers, hailing from various parts of Uttar Pradesh, Haryana and Delhi, are blaming grapplers Bajrang Punia, Sakshi Malik and Vinesh Fogart for their loss. The protest marks a significant shift from a year ago when Punia, Malik and Fogart garnered widespread support. They had accused the Wrestling Federation of India's chief, Brij Bhushan, of sexual harassment and demanded his resignation. At least 12 people have been killed and 30 left injured after a bus collided with a truck in the Indian state of Assam this morning. The incident occurred in Assam's Golaghat district. The district's top cop said that the accident happened at around 5 a.m. Police said the accident took place when the bus carrying 45 passengers was on the way to Tinsukia's Tilinga temple. The district commissioner said that the transport department has been called to examine the spot to find out the cause of the accident. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has announced an ex gratia of $2,400 for the deceased in the accident. North India continues to grapple with cold wave and fog conditions, causing disruptions in railway services. According to the Indian Railways, approximately 26 trains are running late in the national capital area due to fog. Meanwhile, the cold weather has also resulted in worsening air quality across the National Capital Region, or NCR. According to the Central Pollution Control Board data, the Air Quality Index, or AQI, was in a very poor category with a reading of 346. One very lucky winner in Michigan is ringing in the new year on a high note. According to lottery officials, a single ticket matched all 6 numbers, winning the $842 million prize. It is the 5th largest Powerball jackpot of all time. The prize has a cash value of $425 million before taxes. The winning numbers drawn here were 12, 21, 42, 44 and 49. The chance of winning the Powerball jackpot is 1 in almost 300 million. Before the big win on New Year's, the jackpot had been growing since mid-October. The lucky ticket holder has a choice between making the prize an allowance of $842 million, which is payable over 30 years, or a lump sum payment of $425 million. Both prize options are before taxes. Argentinian scientists are using nuclear energy to sterilize disease-carrying mosquitoes. The country is experiencing a record number of dengue cases. It is hoped the technique, which has been tried since 2016, can help suppress future waves of infections. Experts have said this technique is like birth control for insects. It proposes controlling the insects by releasing sterile male insects into the environment where the population of a pest insects needs to be reduced. The technique was first used to control the population of the livestock pest screwworm in the 1950s. The US federal government's total public debt has reached $34 trillion for the first time as members of Congress gear up for another series of federal funding battles in the coming weeks. Congress returns to Washington next week to tackle January 19th and February 2nd deadlines for settling government spending through September. Republicans demand a reduction in fiscal 2024 discretionary spending. Failure to approve the 12 fiscal 2024 spending bills would plunge Washington agencies into shutdown mode. The dollar rose broadly and stood near a 2-week high against its major peers, underpinned by a confluence of factors including elevated US Treasury yields and a cautious turn in risk sentiment that weighed on Wall Street. Trading was thin in Asia, with Japanese markets closed and with investors still returning from an extended New Year break. Meanwhile, oil prices declined marginally as attention shifted to escalating tensions in the Red Sea, coinciding with record US crude production and concerns about demand in China. Britain's manufacturing sector suffered a setback in its attempts to return to growth as output and employment fell more sharply in December than the previous month. The final reading of the S&P Global CIPS Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index weakened in December, ending a run of 3 months of improvement and down from 7-month high in November. Britain's manufacturing sector has borne the brunt of the climb in borrowing costs. By contrast, preliminary data for December showed the country's much bigger services sector saw the strongest growth in 6 months.